in May of 1892, and R.J. Reynolds and all of his dignitary friends, you know, rich folks, they'd come from far and near, and they'd stay at that hotel. And you know, Winston-Salem was an up-and-coming place then. They had electric street lights. That was a big deal in 1892. Now, this hotel had these, oh, it's just beautiful. It had these big turret-type dormers, you know, and people would come from all over and stay there. They were going to have a big feast on Thanksgiving Day, November of 1892, when somebody yelled, "Fire! Fire!" out of the laundry room, and it being a completely wood structure, burnt to the ground. Didn't take long. Well, they had the people who came to fight the fire. They sent out 2 fire companies, and all they could really do is just sort of stand and watch it burn at that point. A prevailing wind was pushing it all one way, you know. Well, they salvaged what food they could from the fire, and all the people who turned out to fight the fire had Thanksgiving dinner there on the grounds of the Zinzendorf Hotel. And it was never rebuilt to that particular standard or in that particular place. The Zinzendorf Hotel was opened later in Winston-Salem, but that particular one was never rebuilt. Now, there was a young lady who worked there. Her name was Mary Ellen Smith. And she met this young feller who also worked there. But the fact that they worked there was not necessarily the thing. That was the place where people went to find a job. There was a lot to do at that Zinzendorf Hotel. So Mary Ellen Smith and Peter DeGraff worked there together from time to time. They had known each other for a couple of years before that. Well, as things so often do, things probably went a little too far, and Peter decided that he wanted nothing else to do with Mary Ellen Smith. So he sent her a note. This is after they'd broken up. He sent her a note and said, "Ellen, please meet me down at the spring, down behind the Zinzendorf," before it burned. Well, she did, but she stopped. She stopped at Cole and Rose, which was a big department store in Winston-Salem then, and she bought a new scarf, a new yellow scarf to wear to the meeting because she thought that he was going to take her back. She loved him to death. Well, Ellen met Peter down behind the Zinzendorf Hotel, and rather than saying, "Ellen, I love you and I want you back," he shot her. Shot her through the heart. Her clothes were all torn and tattered. Apparently there was a scuffle. She saw what was about to happen, was trying to get away, and they had a scuffle, and he shot her. Well, they found her the next day, July the 21st, 1892. And in her hand, she had a note that said, "Ellen, meet me behind the Zinzendorf Hotel." Signed, Peter DeGraff. He wins the Darwin Award for the 1890s. Well, a big hunt ensued. He left town. He took off. He didn't want anything, you know. He said, "No, they're going to catch me. I got to get out of here." So he went to Mount Airy, worked at a sawmill for about a year. He figured being off bearer at sawmills, as hard a work as that is, that was easier than jail time and swinging from the rope. Especially that swinging from the rope part, because they didn't waste much time in those days. Well, Winston-Salem, Forsyth County, it wasn't Winston-Salem yet. It was just Winston. Well, they had a sheriff whose name was R.M. MacArthur. Well, MacArthur set out looking for him. Now, Peter, he stayed up there in Mount Airy for just about a year. And started coming, he decided, he said, I just got to come back. Well, there was an all-points bulletin out on this guy. He came back and got to the depot in Rural Hall and got off the train. And somebody saw him that recognized him. Immediately turned him in. They found him at one of his family members' houses, laying under a stack of mattresses. I don't know why he thought that stack of mattresses would protect him, especially since his foot was sticking out. But they found him. Well, they took him to jail. And while he was in jail, he proceeded to write a song called Poor Ellen Smith. If you've ever heard bluegrass music or well, not even just in bluegrass, folk music of all varieties, Poor Ellen Smith is a common song. Now, he wrote this tune. He says in the song, he said, I didn't kill her. I loved her too much to ever kill her. Oh my, I never would have done that. She was my sweetheart. And he proclaimed that right up until the time he was on the gallows. And he wrote the song to the first half of the hymn, How Firm a Foundation. It's pretty ironic that he would proclaim all that, you know, considering he confessed to the murder on the gallows. He confessed. He said, yes, I did it. And he implored the crowd. He said, you know, don't stay away from whiskey and bad women and dice. That's what he blamed on being the feller he was. Whiskey, bad women, and dice. Probably none of those had anything to do with what a bad feller he was.